What if the UFC thing was like bold and interesting when you were a young guy? Do you think you would have?
I would have 100% done it, and I probably would have a much harder time having this conversation.
That's right.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So I think you hit the sweet spot where you got the skills. You've been in a training idiom. You really know what you're talking about, and you're getting front row seats, but not actually having to have your brain particularly take the pounding.
There's no getting away from that. That is the unfortunate reality that every fighter accepts. There's no getting away from that. There's an absolute possibility, and it's not just your head. It's also your joints. A big part is your back and your neck. I know many guys that have neck impingements and disc herniations and fused neck discs and then nerve pinches where their nerves are impinged to the point where they have atrophy in their arms. I know several guys who have that, where they have one arm that's smaller than the other arm, and it severely impedes their ability to move. And they used to be world champions. Two guys that have been on the show, Bas Ruud and Pat Miletich, two of the greatest of all time. Both guys have one small arm and one regular size arm because of neck impingements. So their nerves are literally pinched down by all the swelling and scar tissue and damaged discs. Yeah.
Well, since we became friends, I started just casually looking at this world, and it's utterly fascinating. I mean, there's nothing like it.
Well, the jiu-jitsu world, I think you would. There's two different worlds, right? There's the MMA world, which incorporates all the different martial arts, and then there's the jiu-jitsu world. And the jiu-jitsu world, I think you would find
geek out.
Yes, you would love it because it's basically. To call it chess is not quite fair,
right?
Because it's more complex than chess. There's much more going on.
The degrees of freedom are so high.
But it's also easier to win if someone's better than chess. Because even if someone is fairly competent in chess, it'll take a few moves to beat them. In jiu-jitsu, if someone's fairly competent and the other one is a master, it'll probably crush you very quickly.
Yeah.
But when you watch two really high-level guys trying to set each other up, it's this crazy rolling exercise in leverage and position and the knowledge of moves.
That Eddie Bravo versus
Hoyler Gracie.
Oh,
yeah,
crap.
Crazy. Yeah,
it's hard to even know what's going on.
It's crazy if you don't know. It's one of my more difficult challenges of being a commentator is when the fight goes to the ground, explaining to people watching at home what he wants to do right now is get his right leg over his arm, and as soon as he does that, now that arm is stuck. He's in trouble right now.
Yeah.
And like to try to explain that to people so they can follow along and go, oh, I see, and he's going to grab that, he's going to arch his back, and he tapped. And people go, oh, and it gets people really excited about jiu-jitsu because they see that and you go, oh, this is like really complicated. Like there's like a dance he's doing and the other guy's trying to resist the dance.
Well, the first time I saw the Gracie breakdown of particular fights where they've committed to memory every move.
Yeah.
And it's like replaying the great games of like Morphy or Capablanca and chess. And you're just thinking, wow, there's the evergreen game, there's the immortal game. And that to me is fascinating. But it's actually more interesting to me in the UFC arena because of the fact that that's only a component and that it's it's what I didn't understand was how much we could get close to unrestricted fighting and still have people fairly dependably survive with minimal obvious disfigurement. There is disfigurement.
We could even be safer if we eliminated weight cutting. The weight cutting is the #1 health issue in the sport, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Number 2 is the brain damage and the impact and the broken bones and things along those lines. But the #1 is weight cutting because it's so unnecessary. It's such an issue that needs to be addressed because these guys want to compete at the highest weight possible. So, do you know how it works?
No.
Okay, say if you were going to compete in the 170-pound division, but you actually weighed 190.
Right.
What you would do is you would wait until you would follow a pretty strict diet, keep your body weight and your fat at a certain level, and then when it comes down to a few days before, you would dehydrate yourself pretty radically.
Yeah.
And then rehydrate yourself scientifically using there's a bunch of guys like George Lockhart, guys who are experts in this, and then they'll give you the exact right amount of nutrients, right amount of potassium and zinc, and they want to replenish all of your electrolytes and get you in a perfect balance, but you're still compromised. And if you don't have a guy like a George Lockhart or someone who's a real expert in nutrition and understands biology and can get you back into that position, you're most likely going to compete compromised, but you're going to accept that significant compromising because you're going to be a bigger person than the person you're fighting. But they also in boxing in particular, the vast majority of deaths have occurred in the lighter weight divisions. And a lot of it is not just because of the head trauma, but because it's head trauma to someone who's dehydrated.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's like it sucks, and it's contrary to what martial arts is supposed to be about. Martial arts is supposed to be about skill for skill. It's not supposed to be about cheating. And the cheating thing is like you're dehydrating yourself. It's like sanctioned cheating. You're saying you're 170 pounds, but you're like if you say the 170-pound champion and get on the scale, he's 193. What the fuck's going on? This isn't a 170-pound guy.
But how frustrating if I want to meet you in a different class. Like I wanted to fight you my whole life, but we're really separated.
Well, you can lose weight the right way. Look, if somebody wants to compete at 170 pounds, in my humble opinion, they should actually weigh 170 pounds. My friend Cam Haynes is a ultramarathon runner, and one of the things that he does when he gets ready for ultramarathons is he loses body weight, but he doesn't have any body weight to lose. So he'll burn 3,000 calories and eat 2,000 calories, and that's how he loses weight. He lets his body eat itself. So he gets down to the 160s, and that's when he runs these gigantic long races, like 240 miles. But I know he's done this. You can do this. Like, you don't have to dehydrate yourself, but they choose to dehydrate themselves because they replenish and then they get much bigger when they get inside the octagon. When he's 165, he's actually 165. That's just what he weighs, and that's the best way to run 240 miles. So he does it through discipline. But these guys that are doing it, and it's not their fault because it's already been established. It's a part of the sport. It's been there for years and years and years, and it's sanctioned cheating, and everybody does it. And it's the worst part of the sport because it's really damaging to your kidneys, terrible for your organs. Your body starts to shut down when you do it too often. Your body doesn't want to lose weight anymore, so it starts to really hold on to that water. And guys fall asleep and pass out and bang their heads off walls, and fights get canceled. Like championship level fights get canceled because guys black out and crack their head off the wall. And this has happened in the UFC before. It's just super unnecessary and unfortunate. And part of it is because there's not enough weight classes. There's there's 155, then there's 170. The difference between 155 and 170 is not just 15 pounds. Because if you actually weigh 155 and this guy's dropping down to 170, that motherfucker could be 190 plus.
Right.
And he's just figuring out a way to cut weight to get down to there. And that happens all the time. So you're dealing with, it could be 25, 30 pounds difference between you two guys if you actually weigh what the weight class is when you get into the octagon. So people are forced to drop weight. They're forced to go lower. If they want to compete at a world-class level, they're forced to take this extra risk. And it could be mitigated. It could all be stopped by hydration tests. The UFC could step in. All the athletic commissions could step in and say, enough is enough. You're going to fight at what you weigh, and we're going to give you more weight classes so you can figure out what's the weight for you to be best at. And I hope it doesn't take someone dying before they figure this out.